Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Watches TV, where I watch all the TV shows and then I come over here and I react to them. And today I want to talk about the newest episode of Sister Wives that just aired last night. But first, I want to give you guys a little bit of an update on the shows that I'm going to be reacting to this week, because so many people reach out to me and they'll say, hey, can you let us know what shows you're going to react to, because I want to watch them before you react to them. So I thought this week, I made a schedule. So I thought that this week I would let you guys know kind of what the schedule is going to look like a little bit. That way you guys can watch the shows ahead of time if you want to, or you can wait. So Mondays, as always, will be Sister Wives today. Now, tomorrow is Tuesday, which is kind of like a filler day. So I'm going to do some kind of true crime tomorrow. I've watched 3 true crime documentaries this weekend, which I will get to in just a second. So it'll be one of those 3 tomorrow. Wednesday has been 1,000 Pound Sister Day, but I think I'm going to move Polyfamily to Wednesdays because people seem to be more interested in Polyfamily over 1,000 Pound Sisters. So I'm going to have Wednesdays be Polyfamily Day and Thursdays will be 1,000 Pound Sister Days. Then Friday will probably be another true crime day, and then Saturdays will be Love After Lockup. And I'm going to start doing Love After Lockup reactions over here because I'm watching currently season 6 and currently season 4. Currently season 6, the current season, and then I'm also going back and I'm binge watching season 4. So I don't know how those reactions are going to go yet, and I'm kind of late to this season, but I'm going to start doing those because I'm loving Love After Lockup. It's so messy. And then on Sundays, if I do a video, I will probably just do like a true crime or some series that I watch because I'm finishing series as I go. I just watched The Ed or Not on Netflix. I've got other shows that I have like finished watching, and my husband and I are finished watching. Sometimes I think I'm gonna have to start doing like 2 videos a day on this channel. Like I might do 2 true crime videos tomorrow. I might also start doing RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars reactions. So it's on every Friday. If you guys are wanting me to do that, let me know in the comment section below and I can do that. I haven't caught up with The Valley, but when I do get caught up in The Valley, I will be doing reactions to that too. My husband and I are currently about halfway through Vanderpump Villa. When I get done with that, I will be doing an entire reaction to the whole series. So just wanted to, or the whole season. So there's a lot of things that I am going to be doing over here, but that's this week's schedule. So the true crime that I'll be covering this week is I watched Southern Fried Lies on Peacock. All 3 of them I thought were fantastic, by the way. I thought they were fantastically done, and I really enjoyed all of them. They were very sad, all of them, but very well done. Southern Fried Lies on Peacock. And then I watched on Netflix the trending American Deadly Marriage. And then I also watched last night the Bakersfield 3, which is on Max. And it just came out. And it was very, very sad. The other 2 are like standalones. I think Southern Fried Lies is 1 hour and 25 minutes, and I think American Deadly Marriage is 1 hour and 42 minutes, and then the Bakersfield 3 on Max, and it's also on ID channel. It is 3-part series, and each episode is 40 minutes. So, and I would recommend any of those if you're wanting to watch a true crime documentary. By the way, if you want to know what I'm watching any given night, you can go over to my Instagram, which is at Peter Watches TV, linked below. And then I put up in my stories what I'm watching at that time. So, and Poker Face, I'm going to start watching sometime this week as well. Okay, so let's get into Sister Wives this week. This is season 19, episode 24. Blessed are those who mourn, but I am going to refer to it as the Kody Brown Show. Here's the thing I'm having a difficult time doing. I don't really know how to, my Sister Wives reactions are usually rather like tongue-in-cheek and funny, and, I mispronounce Robin's kids' names and call them Brescia and Florence and Mattress and things like that. But it's hard to do because last week's episode, obviously, was all about Garrison's passing. This week's episode was more about Garrison's passing, and then it was also about Cody and Robin and the kids going to Wyoming to to take Garrison's ashes to the gravesite to bury him next to his grandma and grandpa. And so it's kind of hard. I don't really know how to do these reactions. And I'll tell you even more how I don't know how to do the reactions is that when I'm watching the scenes with Janelle, like Janelle is talking about grieving her son. When I'm watching the scenes with Christine is talking about grieving her son. Mary's even talking about grieving, Garrison. And then Cody It's like I don't know how they did it. And I will say this, I was not aware of this, but a lot of you guys let me know that Janelle and Kody had final approval over these episodes. If Janelle and Kody had final approval over these episodes, I'm not really sure why Kody signed off on this, or Janelle didn't say, hey, Kody, this is not a good look for you. Like, this does not look good. Because Kody makes it all about himself. I mean, this episode was Mary, Janelle, Christine, Gabriel, and I think Maddie was interviewed at one point, Savannah was interviewed, all talking about Gabriel's passing in some context. Like, Savannah's moving home to North Carolina to live at Maddie's, and so she's going to go to school there. But Janelle and her are packing them up. They go to the Humane Society because all these donations were raised for the Humane Society, because the school that Garrison was at for nursing school, the students said, where can we donate money? And she was like, I guess the Humane Society, because he got all of his cats from the Humane Society. He loved his cats. And so they go to the Humane Society. It's like, with one side of the family, it's all focused on the very serious nature of Garrison's passing. And then you have Robin and Kody and the kids that are going to Kody, Wyoming, where they're going to bury his ashes. And it's like 4 minutes or 3, not even that, probably 2 minutes of Kody talking about how hard the grieving process is. And I said this last week, okay? I said, I am not going to, like, beat him while he's down. Like, I can't even imagine what it's like to be a parent, no matter what kind of parent you are, to go through losing a child. I can't even imagine that, okay? But Cody's making it really hard to be sympathetic towards him. And at first I kind of was like, am I feeling this wrong? And then my best friend Tanya reached out to me, and she's like, I cannot stand Robin. And she's like, and Kody is just like, and then my friend Nikki watched it, and she said the same thing. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not the only one. It's like, they go to this Kody, Wyoming, and, Cody's showing all these signs that he sold and how he started his business. And what does he say in there? He says at the very end something about it matters, and he's showing them all these signs, and they're happy, okay. And he says in there, where is it at? It matters because it was like the start of his entire career. So showing them these signs, and then he goes into this store, the saddle store, he's talking about telling the sign to this guy, and the guy's like, hey, Kody, how are you? And Robin, they're getting a stagecoach afterwards, and Robin's like, it's really good for Kody to see his friends because it cheers him up. I'm like, okay, Robin, I don't know what you call a friend, but somebody that he sold a sign to in a store is not a friend. Like, we haven't seen any of Cody's friends in this episode. And in all honesty, like, Maddie talks about how they used to go to the farm in that area, and they used to, like, work on the farm every summer. Like, Kody could have taken the kids out there and been like, this is the farm that Garrison worked on. This is the ice cream store that we used to bring Garrison to, that he loved this ice cream store. It was all about Kody. It was all about Kody and these signs and showing the kids and all this kind of stuff, It was so bizarre. I mean, even this one scene, they kind of, like, had this, like, funny thing where they were talking about, like, he was, like, a womanizer. And he's like, I wasn't a womanizer just because I was married to 4 women. And then they're laughing at him at dinner and all this kind of stuff. But then he had just said that this town that they're touring all over the place was where he chased girls, is what he said. So, were you a womanizer or not? And it's always about Kody. It's always brought back to Kody and Cody's feelings. And in all honesty, like, Robin said some very sympathetic things in this episode. I mean, she is trying to squeeze out a tear so hard. I mean, she is trying so hard. She wipes her eyes constantly, and there's no tears there whatsoever. And I don't know if that's just, listen, I'm sure she's going through a really hard time too. But she says more sympathetic things than Kody does about grieving, right? But I'll be honest with you, at where I'm at 19 seasons, and what is this, episode 24, I don't give a rat's ass what Robin Brown has to say about Garrison's passing. She has not encouraged this man on camera other than one time to have a relationship with any of his kids. Janelle said in this episode that Garrison's passing has healed a lot of family relationships and brought a lot of family relationships together. And I hope that's true. I heard that there was this huge fallout, and the reason that McKelty, and yes, I did see the picture of McKelty with the top hat on this episode. I just don't really know how to do these reactions because they're such serious topics, but I did see that. But apparently McKelty had a falling out with her dad and Robin at Garrison's funeral. I don't know if they're going to show it on the episodes or not. And I didn't know what it was about. And a couple people, like, reached out to me. I think some people commented on my last video and said it was because Kody asked Janelle about Garrison's life insurance policy at the funeral or something like that, or he and Robin did. I'll be honest with you. In the last couple of seasons, Robin has not... I mean, she's always talking about how the wives talk bad about her, and obviously they never knew this was going to happen. And like I said, I don't wish this on anybody, I think the sad fact of it is, and Kody, he talks about this. He talks about how, things he could have done differently. You know, I've lived this. I have very dear friends of mine who have parents, siblings that have taken their life. One of my very closest friends when I was younger took their life. And, you know, those are normal questions to ask yourself those things, right? I hope it's testament for him moving forward on how to be, you know, a better father with his remaining kids. And that he works really hard to repair those relationships, you know, but that's not what we're seeing so far. We're seeing him hang out with Brisha, Felicia, and Mattress and showing them the signs. He's not hanging out with any of the other kids. You know, I mean, that would have been a moment, I think, if I had seen part of an episode where, like, Cody was with his other kids instead of always being with Robin's kids. There was none of that. Now, one thing I did love about this episode was they showed a lot more pictures of Garrison, which is really what I wanted in the previous episode. This episode seemed more of a memorial to Garrison than the previous episode did. They showed a lot more pictures of Garrison. At the end of it, they did like a video montage, which I had said in my last video, I was kind of missing that. They did this video montage of Garrison. I felt like all of them, you know, like, Gabriel shared some really sweet stuff about it. Janelle, of course. I mean, I don't even know how the woman talks on camera, you know. But they were all close to Garrison raising him. They were, you know, they were one family, you know. And Mary says a lot of nice things. Christine, I just like. It's weird because Christine kind of reminds me of my mom a little bit in some ways. And every time she opens up and starts talking about stuff, it just breaks my heart. You know, she talks about this like planting this tree and that they named it. I can't remember what they named it. Midnight something. But here, let me look, because if I don't say it, but they plant this tree because then she can go out there and talk to Garrison anytime she wants. And I don't know. It's just like, I guess I'm finding it hard knowing that Cody and Janelle are signing off on this, that Cody doesn't even see how arrogant and selfish he looks. And he even says in there, well, you have to have good times too to get through that's how he ends the whole episode, to get through the morning. I understand that, okay? But side by side with your ex-wives speaking about your son in such a humane way of lifting him up, of what an amazing person he was. I mean, Mary says in there, you know, that they're all at Janelle's house. And I love this, that Mary's talking about how she called her friend Jen. And Jen said, you need to get some food and you need to take it over there. That Jen walked her through the process. I had a friend of mine that passed away about 10 years ago from meningitis. Very, very dear friend of mine. Very dear friend of mine in sobriety. And I remember getting the call from his mom. And I was like, I can't, there's no way. She's like, you have to, you know, if you're coming to say goodbye. And I remember calling Tanya and I was bawling. I was pacing in this room back. I said, Tanya, I cannot go and say goodbye to him. I cannot do that. And she said, you will do that. She said, you're going to get dressed and you're going to go there and you're going to show up because he was a friend to you and he loved you and he would be there for you. And that's the kind of friend that you were to him as well. And Tanya had to walk me through that. Just like my friends walked me through my mom's funeral, you know? My friend whose mom had died the year previously, you know, she walked me through my mom's funeral and her service. And that's what you do as friends. And I love that moment with Jen and Mary. You know, but Mary says in there that she went over to Janelle's and took food and that all the kids were together except for Garrison. And she's like, it took Garrison's passing for us to all be together again, or all the kids to be together again. And she's like, but that's who Garrison was as a person. So we've got Mary talking amazingly about Garrison, Christine talking amazingly about Garrison, even David. I thought David, what he said in this episode, and sharing about his wife having taken her own life and what he went through and the questions that he asked himself and having to tell his kids how hard it was and how difficult it, you know, like that was so difficult for him to have to tell his kids that their mother had taken her life, you know. And then you've got Janelle over there talking about it was just his birthday and how hard this is. I can't even imagine a mother having to get on national television, let alone talk to anybody. You know, when her and Savannah are moving the apartment, she said, you know, we're very private people, like in public, we don't like show our emotions very well. And yet you're on a international TV show having to share about your grieving process. And then we have Cody, who, yeah, does talk about his grieving, but interspersed in that, and I understand that grieving looks different for everybody. I get it. I've lived it, you know? But when you're signing off on a TV show and you want it to look a certain way and your three wives are being so compassionate, sympathetic, empathetic, and it's just feeling their pain on camera, and you're going, and this sign right here has got a lot of junk behind it, and this sign's really important because it's what started my career. And it's like, okay. And then the kids are falling asleep in the restaurant, and you're like, yeah, it's been a really hard day. A hard day walking all over town, taking a stagecoach ride, going and seeing a show. Like, where did Kody think that this was going to look good for him on camera? It's more, I mean, if this is Kody's, this is the problem, right? Because I'm trying to be really sympathetic to the father of a child that just took his life. I can't even imagine what that's going through. And like I said in my last video, I do not want to, like, kick this man while he's down. I feel for him. No matter what he did wrong in that situation, no matter if he was the shittiest father in the entire world, you know, it's coming out that, you know, Mary said that she would host Christmas so they could all get together, that Garrison invited, and Kody said no to all that, you know? No matter what he is, like, I've had friends of mine, luckily this is not my story, you know, but I have had friends of mine who have had friends, spouses, parents, siblings pass when the situation was not good. I don't wish that on anybody, because you have to live with that guilt for the rest of your life. I don't wish that even on Kody Brown, okay? But if he is signing off on these episodes, and he thinks this is the best that we see, and like I said, I know grieving looks different for everybody. I know that there are stages of grief where you have to laugh. I can remember being in a car with my friends the night before my mom's viewing, listening to CDs of all of my mom's favorite songs, smoking cigarettes, drinking fountain pops and coffee, you know, telling funny stories about my mom. I needed that moment, okay? But that's different. If he's signing off on this and he thinks this is how he looks best on the episode, that scares me. That this is Kody Brown at his best, trying to, I mean, to me, and there's just this whole idea of, I'm taking my son home, this is a pilgrimage to me. For me, having watched 19 seasons of it, like, Janelle's better than I am, and she's like, you know, he wants to be buried there, blah, 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 whatever, but if it were me, I'd be like, that is my son, I am taking him back there, okay? You even talk to him. I mean, just for me, it's so hard to watch. And like I said, I don't really even know how to do these reactions because I'm trying to walk with such a fine line about it because I don't want to be cruel to the man. I feel bad for him, right? But it's just like, why is it always the Kody Brown show? Okay? I mean, here is the truth. And I'm not saying this to be a shit at all. I understand that, like, Logan and Leon don't want to be on the show. I get that. I respect that, okay? But those were two people that I loved seeing on the show. You know, I loved seeing a lot of the other kids on the show. Gabriel, he shows up, and I just immediately start crying. Every time that Gabriel is on the camera, I just immediately start crying, okay? I feel for that kid. That kid is so real. You know, when he was having a conversation with his dad after the lockdown about why spend all the time with Robin, you could have been locked down with us at our house. You know, I mean, I have felt for that kid for so long because he just wanted that relationship with his dad so much. All these kids did. You know, when Maddie talks about her dad, you can see there's a true bitterness, but she's also detached. Like, Maddie's worked through it. You can tell. Like, I think she really, truly thinks her dad's a shit dad, but she's also worked through the pain to the point where, I mean, none of the kids, except for Robin's kids, ever are with Kody. They never show him with any of the kids except for Kody, ever. You know? And so it's like, and I'll be honest with you, and this is going to sound mean probably, I don't care about Robin and her kids. I do not care about Robin and her kids. I don't care about what she has to say about Garrison's passing. I don't care what she has to say about Kody's grief. I don't care about her kids. I'm not interested in Brisha, Frisha, and Mattress. I don't care about them getting baptized. I don't care about them going to school. And I hope to God that they are not trying to think about doing a spinoff show or season 20 about Kody Brown and his wife Robin and their kids, because I do not care, okay? The entire family moved to Flagstaff for, what was that kid's name? Dayton, to go to college. And Dayton's not even on the show. When I just saw in a Facebook thing the other day, where I think it was, I can't remember who it was, one of Janelle, it was one of the daughters, said, well, why don't you ever have Dayton on camera? Because he still lives at home. So Dayton supposedly is in and out of that house all the time, but he's never on camera. It's all fraud. It's all a fraud. You know? So I'm sitting there and I'm watching this episode, which the whole time I'm like, let's hear what Janelle has to say. Let's hear what Christine has to say, or Gabriel, or Mary even. Like, I don't care what Robin Brown has to say about this situation. I don't care. And she did that to herself. She did that to herself. Because Robin is not the voice of reason in this family, you know? So anyway, let me just look through my notes really quick, because I took extensive notes, and now I'm just kind of like talking about it. But it starts off when they're at Maddie and Caleb's, and they're with Janelle, and they're planning the memorial. And they talk about being buried versus being cremated. And Janelle's talking about it's this very little cemetery. They show it, and it's Wyoming. But she said it's a Wyoming view, and it's very fitting for Garrison. She loves it. Then they're at Christine's house, and she's talking about how she thinks about him every single day, and that nothing is the same anymore. And she talks to Janelle all the time. And then she talks about, and I love this. And this is the moments that, like, Kody Brown is not authentic enough to even show. But she's talking in there about how, like, they're at a movie, and she was at a movie with Peyton, and, like, this guy comes out of a coma and his son's gone. And she said, Peyton, or somebody said something to her about, like, he's in a better place now. And she's like, I don't want, and this is such a truism with when you're going through grief, when people say they're in a better place now. It's like, I don't want them to be in a better place. I want them to be here with us. You know, there is that selfishness with grief that comes along. And I love that Christine says it. This is the rawness that we see from one half the family, but Kody and Robin cannot show it to us at all. And then I'm like, but I don't want to get on camera and judge the man, but you're making it really hard not to. When they're showing us absolute sincerity of feeling, when Christine is talking about this idea of when people say to us they're in a better place, if you've ever lost somebody, you know that's probably true. If they've been in pain for a long time or they've been suffering, you probably know that's true, but you don't want to hear that. That's a painful sentiment, you know? And so she goes in this whole thing, and David talks about his wife, and it was very sincere of David talking about, I love David. This was probably the episode where I was like, man, I really like this guy. You know, and he's talking about his wife passing, and he had to tell his kids, and he didn't want to. Then we're in Parowan, Utah with Mary and Jen, and she's talking about how Jen walked her through the whole process, and that it was really cool to see all the kids together. And she said everyone except for Garrison, and it took him passing to get everyone together. And she said it's so like Garrison. She kind of laughed to herself. She's like, it's so like Garrison to get everybody together, you know? Back at Salt Lake City with Christine, and she said it's important for her to remember him and to remember how much fun he had. And he always loved working with his hands, Janelle says. And he was always all about his younger siblings. And Christine starts crying. She's like, he loved Truly. And she starts bawling her eyes. I cried through this whole episode. And then she's talking about how he was building Truly these, like, planter boxes to build plants in. And so they're putting them there on their property. And then they plant this tree, which is called Sedona Midnight, because Garrison always said that if he was going to be a stripper, that was going to be a stripper name, was Sedona Midnight. And she kind of laughs a little bit. And then Christine says this thing about grief. Like, this is where Cody's like, well, you know, grief is kind of different. Like, sometimes you're mourning and it's really hard, but then you have to have happy times to work through the mourning. Do you like that sign? And then Christine says, in opposition to that, just to give you kind of a difference of that, Christine says that she doesn't know how to grieve. She knows how to cook. She knows how to clean. But she doesn't know how to grieve. And when she needs to grieve, she guesses she'll figure it out. And I was like, anybody that has ever been through any kind of profound grief, that is the definition of it. I can make a list. I can call these people up that people are telling me to call. I can make funeral arrangements. I can clean my room. I can do laundry. I don't know what it means to just sit and feel my feelings. That was one of the hardest things. It was one of the most important things for me to learn, but it was one of the hardest things for me to learn, to just sit with my feelings and allow myself to feel my feelings. So here we are having all of these, you know, people talk about all this stuff. Then it's 4 months later, and Cody's talking about grief, hitting you in waves, and he's talking about all his grief, and then he's talking about these signs, and he's like, it matters so much, because it's what broke me into my career. And I'm like, well, I just saw a picture of you on Facebook the other day, pissed off, because somebody took a picture of you selling a bunch of shit at a gun show. Not to mention that your entire area is a complete mess, and so are you selling signs now, or are you selling guns? Okay, because you never talk about your job ever on camera because you do gun sales. So I guess that's not good for a family show. I don't know, but you're a fraud, Kody Brown. Okay, and you always want to make it about you. Then we go back and we're with Janelle, and she's moving Savannah to North Carolina. Again, she talks about how they're not very public in their emotions, and they talk about the donations to the Humane Society. Then we're back in Cody, Wyoming with Robin and Kody, and they're having dinner. They said they had a fun day. A good tired, Kody says. They're worn out and they're tired. Then he talks about how his dad named him after Buffalo Bill, who's actually, his name was Kody. I'm like, who gives a shit about, who cares? This is so weird. This whole episode is about Garrison, and Cody's talking about who he was named after in this town and showing these kids around this town. Who cares? I don't care about this. And at the end of it, he says that Kody Brown does this thing. It's like when he says, like, the magistrate of Jesus. And he says these things that don't make sense when you listen to him. And he does this whole thing about talking about you have to have happy times, because when you're having sad times, you're mourning. And when you're having mourning, then you're having sad times. But you have to have the happy times because you have to move through the sad times of mourning. And that doing things, happy things, so that we're not moving on from mourning to have faith in the hereafter. None of it makes any sense. I don't know who he's talking to, but I'm watching him like, Christine just talked about how she can clean and she can cook, but she doesn't know how to grieve. And I don't know what it is you're talking to me about right now. I don't know what this is, what you're saying, okay? Just say you miss your son. Just say you miss your son and you feel like you fucked up, okay? Like, to me, I would be like, that's sincere. You know? He does talk about how there's a lot of things he wished he would have done differently, you know? And I get that. And this is why I didn't want to fault the man. But you signed off on this episode, Cody, and this made you look like shit, okay? And I don't care what your wife, Robin, has to say about this at all, okay? As a Diesel Jeans model. I don't care what she has to say about any of this. I don't really even honestly think she has a place to say anything about it, okay? Then we're at Flagstaff, and I was like, please, this is what I was hoping. I was like, please do not let this episode end on Cody and Robin in this fucking town having dinner with their kids. Please do not let it end on that. Thank God it didn't. They're at Flagstaff in the Humane Society where Garrison adopted all of his cats. Janelle said that they had the outpouring was amazing. They raised $25,000. They have this room. The adoption room is dedicated to Garrison, which I thought was really cool. They have like a plaque on the wall. They were able to do 36 cat adoptions in his name in March, that they could waive the adoption fees, which is just amazing. And then Janelle says she's present and she's really grateful for all the good that's come from it. But then she remembers why. I'm like, that's the hardest thing, right? Like, about grieving. It's like, when you lose somebody, and it's just like, and having watched 19 seasons of this family, like, it's so hard. And they did this video montage, you know, of Garrison, which was just beautiful. It's what I wanted last week. It was always moments of him laughing and being out, and, you know, it's just all the really cool moments of Garrison through the years. And it's like, I've watched this show now, and I like know everything about this family, and I think that's part of it, is we all relate to it in some way, right? And you do learn a lot from loss, and you do learn a lot from grief. But then you also are reminded of why, you know, and that's the painful part of it. So I was glad they did a more respectful, and I think the next one's going to probably be the funeral. There was no trailer on when I was watching it. So if you guys know about next week's episode, let me know in the comment section below. I just really can't believe that Cody's, like, he's signing off. If this is the best that Cody thinks he can give us, like, I think Cody needs to really reevaluate some things. But I thought the rest of the people on it, I thought Gabriel, Mary, Christine, and especially Janelle, I thought, and Savannah, and Maddie, and Caleb, I thought they did beautiful tributes to Garrison. I thought it was really well done. And I loved the piece where they showed Garrison building the planners for Truly. I loved that. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section. And I love David sharing about, I think he normalized it for Christine when he was talking about how he had lost, you know, his wife and having to tell his kids and how difficult that was. And I love that David's opened up more in one episode than Cody's opened up in 19 seasons. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.